The afternoon sun was sharp and bright over the old frontier fort, the kind of sun that made the dust shine like gold in the air. The fort sat alone in the open land, its wooden walls dry from the heat, its guards slow from long hours of standing watch. Beside the gate stood a small holding cage, made of thick wooden bars, the kind used to keep a prisoner outside until the officers decided what to do with him. Inside that cage sat a quiet cowboy named Luke. His hat had been taken away. His boots were dusty, and his clothes looked worn from travel. A small iron chain ran across his boots knot, enough to make him helpless, but enough to remind him that he was not free. Luke had been sitting in that cage since dawn. Most men would shout or argue with the guards, but he kept his silence. He sat with his back straight, his hands resting on his knees, his eyes studying the dirt as if he was thinking deeply. The guards watched him with a careful eye. They had heard stories about him, stories that made them believe he was dangerous. Some said he fought like a wild animal when provoked. Others claimed he once took down 3 armed men alone. No one knew which stories were true, but the guards believed every word, and because of that, they kept their rifles close. But anyone who looked closely would see that Luke's eyes did not match the stories. His face was bruised from the night he was arrested, but his eyes held a calmness that did not belong to a violent man. He did not glare at the guards or curse anyone. He looked more tired than angry, more disappointed than wild. He looked like a man who had been misunderstood for far too long. That afternoon, a small Apache trading group approached the fort. They carried woven baskets, handmade cloth, and medicinal herbs to exchange for tools, salt, and metal goods. Walking among them was a young Apache woman named Naira. She walked with quiet confidence, her steps light, her posture firm. She had a calm beauty, natural, soft, and unforced. She was not the kind to speak loudly or show her emotions quickly, but she had sharp eyes that noticed everything around her. As the group entered the fort's open yard, Naira's eyes drifted toward the holding cage. She had not planned to look, but something about the shape inside the cage caught her attention. It was not the cage itself. Apache people had seen such things before at forts, but the stillness of the man inside. Most prisoners called out to visitors or shouted for help. This man did not do anything. He did not even look up. Naira slowed her steps. Luke felt movement nearby and lifted his head. His eyes met hers for the first time. For a moment, Naira almost stopped breathing. She had expected to see someone wild or angry. Instead, she saw a man whose expression carried quiet strength and surprising gentleness. He looked tired, yes, but not dangerous. His eyes did not fill with fear or frustration. They were steady, almost peaceful. The guards noticed her staring. "Don't get close," one of them warned sharply. "He ain't safe," Naira did not answer. Their words surprised her because the man did not look unsafe at all. His shoulders were relaxed and his breathing slow. There was no tension in his body, no sign that he might cause trouble. She continued walking with her group, but her thoughts stayed behind at the cage. They reached the trading table where soldiers waited to inspect their goods. Naira placed her basket down and opened it to show woven cloth and herbs. But her mind was not fully with the trade. She kept thinking of the man in the cage. The stories the soldiers believed did not match the quiet strength she sensed in him. When she lifted her basket again to move to the next table, the weight shifted suddenly, and several small medicinal pouches slipped out of her hands and rolled across the dirt before she could bend to pick them up. A hand reached out from the cage. Luke had moved closer, using the short length of his chain to stretch his arm through the wooden bars. He carefully picked up the pouches one by one, lowly, respectfully, as if they were more valuable than coins, and placed them neatly near her feet. He did not smile or speak. He simply nodded, a small, polite gesture. Naira felt a warmth in her chest. She nodded back, trying not to stare too long. It was such a simple moment, nothing dramatic, nothing loud, but it told her more about him than any story ever could. A dangerous man would not move so gently. A violent man would not care if her things fell. But this man, he helped without being asked, even though he was the one locked behind bars. The guards noticed it too. That's enough, one said sternly. Back away from the cage. Luke stepped back quietly, letting their suspicions settle on him again. Naira picked up her pouches, her mind now more curious than ever. For the rest of the trade, she kept glancing toward the cage. Each time, she found him sitting in the same calm way, not protesting, not causing trouble. He only watched the world around him with the eyes of a man who had accepted unfair things before. When the trade ended, the Apache group prepared to leave the fort. But Naira found her feet turning toward the cage once more. She walked slowly, unsure why she felt drawn to him. Maybe it was because he looked alone. Maybe because something in her heart whispered that he was not the man others said he was. Or maybe because his silence seemed to hide a story she needed to hear. She approached the cage again. Luke saw her coming and stood up. He did not press against the bars or try to act bold. He simply stood straight and waited, showing quiet respect in the way he carried himself. "Why do they keep you here?" she asked softly. Her voice was calm, her words simple. But her eyes were filled with honest curiosity. Luke took a moment before answering. "Because they believe I'm dangerous?" he said quietly. "Are you?" Naira asked. He shook his head slowly. No, the way he said it made her believe him without question. He did not defend himself with wild excuses or angry words. He only spoke the simple truth, before she could ask more. A guard stepped forward and told her she was not allowed to speak with him. Naira stepped back a little, but she did not leave right away. She gave Luke one last look, one filled with quiet understanding. Luke returned the look, and in that moment, neither of them needed more words. Something had passed between them, something small but real. When Naira left the fort with her group, she kept thinking about him. She replayed the moment he reached for her fallen pouches. She remembered how calm his voice sounded. She wondered what had truly happened the night he was arrested. And she wondered why her heart felt heavy as she walked away. Luke watched her leave, through the gate, until she disappeared behind the dust of the trail. She had been the first person to speak to him with kindness in a long time. Even though their conversation was short, it lingered in his thoughts like a quiet spark in the darkness. That night, as the guards changed shifts and the fort settled into silence, Naira lay awake in her family lodge, thinking of the man in the cage. Her instincts were rarely wrong, and everything inside her whispered the same thing. He was not who they believed he was, and she needed to know his real story. Naira woke before sunrise the next morning. Her tribe's camp was quiet, the early air cool and still. Most people were still sleeping, but she walked outside and sat near the fire pit that had burned low during the night. She stared at the dim glow in the ashes, her thoughts circling around the cowboy she met in the cage. She had seen many men over the years, traders, warriors, settlers, but none had carried the same kind of quiet sadness and strength that Luke carried. Something inside her refused to let his image fade. As the sun rose, her mother came out of their lodge carrying a blanket. She wrapped it around her shoulders and sat beside Naira. Her mother was older, with gentle eyes that had seen many winters. She did not need to ask what troubled her daughter. She sensed it already. "You left the fort yesterday with heavy thoughts," her mother said softly. Naira nodded. She did not hide things from her mother. "There was a man in the holding cage," she said. "A cowboy. They say he is dangerous." "And what do you say?" her mother asked. Naira looked toward the horizon. "I don't believe he is." Her mother watched her carefully. "Why does this man trouble your heart?" "Because," Naira answered slowly, choosing her words with care. His eyes were not the eyes of a man who enjoys hurting others. He was calm, kind even, and he helped me when my basket fell. Her mother raised her eyebrows. "A prisoner helped you?" Naira nodded. He picked up everything gently, like he did not want anything to break. "It was strange, Mother. A man locked in chains should be bitter. He should be angry. But he looked like someone carrying pain he never deserved." Her mother thought for a moment. "You saw something the guards did not." Naira looked down at her hands. "I want to know what happened to him." Her mother smiled a little. "Then you should go and ask him again." Naira felt a small rush of hope at her mother's words. She had feared being told to stay away. Instead, her mother trusted her instincts. After breakfast, she prepared a small bundle of food bread, dried berries, and a small pouch of water. She told her mother she would return before sundown, then walked toward the path that led to the fort. The trail was quiet except for the wind brushing through the dry grass. Naira walked with a determined but calm pace. She knew the guards might not allow her to speak with Luke again, but she also knew she had to try. Something deep inside her urged her forward, a feeling she did not completely understand but did not want to ignore. When she reached the fort, the guards recognized her. Some looked surprised. Others looked bothered. One guard, a young soldier with a thick mustache, stepped in front of her. "You again?" he said. "There's nothing here for you. The prisoner is fine." "I only want to speak with him," Naira said politely. "That's not allowed," he replied, crossing his arms. Before Naira could respond, an older officer stepped out from the shade near the trading area. He recognized Naira from the day before and approached with a more cautious expression. "What business do you have with the man in the cage?" he asked. Naira met his eyes calmly. "I want to hear his story. He is a danger," the officer said firmly. "He did not seem dangerous yesterday," Naira replied, maintaining her steady tone. The officer sighed. "Kindness can be a trick. He knows how to make people trust him." Ada shook her head. "No." His eyes were honest. The officer studied her for a long moment. Finally, he stepped aside. "You may speak with him for a few minutes, but only from a distance." Naira nodded in gratitude and walked toward the cage. Luke was sitting inside, his back against one of the wooden beams. When he saw her approaching, he stood up slowly. "I didn't think you would come back," he said quietly. "I wanted to," she replied. She set the small bundle of food near the bars, but not too close, in case the guards objected. "I brought this for you." He looked at the bundle with surprise. "You didn't have to do that." "I know," she said gently. "But I wanted to." He crouched near the bars and pulled the bundle closer. His hands were rough, but the way he handled the food was careful. "Thank you," he said, and she heard genuine gratitude in his voice. After a moment of silence, Naira asked, "Why are you here?" Luke's expression darkened slightly, not with anger, but with pain. He took a deep breath. "There was a boy," he said. "A young one. Maybe 10 years old. He was being pushed around by a gambler in town. The man was drunk and swinging his fists at anyone near him. The boy tripped, and the gambler reached for a knife. I stepped in." Naira listened closely. "I pushed the gambler away," Luke continued. "He fell, hit his head on the edge of a barrel, and someone shouted that I attacked him. Before I could explain anything, the gambler's friends told the sheriff I started it, and the boy." Naira asked. "He ran away," Luke said softly. "He was too scared to stay. No one saw what really happened except him. And without him, I had no one to speak for me." Naira felt a heaviness in her chest. "You were protecting a child." Luke lowered his eyes. "Yes, but the sheriff didn't believe me. And the fort commander thought it was safer to hold me until they could decide what to do." "Have you harmed anyone before?" she asked. "No," he said firmly. "I've had to defend myself before, but I've never harmed someone without reason. I don't go looking for trouble." Naira did not doubt him. She could hear the truth in his voice. "I told them you don't look dangerous," she said. Luke gave a faint smile. "Looks can fool people. They see a man alone, with no one to stand up for him, and they decide he must be guilty of something." His words made Naira think deeply. Her own people knew what it felt like to be judged without being understood. She felt a growing sense of connection to this man who had no one on his side. "Why did you help me yesterday?" she asked suddenly. Luke looked surprised. "Because your things fell," he said simply, "and because it was the right thing to do." Her heart grew warm at his answer. The guard nearby cleared his throat loudly. "That's enough talking." Naira stood up but didn't leave yet. She looked at Luke again. "I believe you," she said quietly. Luke swallowed hard, emotion flickering across his face. "Thank you," he whispered. Naira walked back toward the gate as the guards watched her closely. But her thoughts were stronger, clearer than before. This man was innocent. She knew it with her whole heart. When she returned to her tribe's camp, Her mother waited outside the lodge. "You spoke with him?" her mother said gently. "Yes," Naira said. "And he is innocent," Naira answered without hesitation. "He saved a child, and now he is paying for it. No one is speaking for him. He has no friends here." Her mother nodded slowly. "Our people have seen such injustice before." Naira looked down, troubled. "If no one helps him, he will be sent away in chains." Her mother placed a hand gently on her daughter's arm. "There is a way," she said quietly. Naira looked up. "A way?" Her mother hesitated, then spoke. "There is an old tradition. A woman of our tribe may claim an innocent man who is treated unfairly. By offering marriage, she brings him under our tribe's protection. The fort must release him to her family. They cannot refuse." Naira froze. Marriage? To a man she barely knew? But as the idea settled in her heart, she did not feel fear. She felt something else, a deep, steady seriousness. Her mother watched her carefully. "This is not a small choice. If you use this tradition, you must be sure." Closed her eyes. Remembering Luke's quiet voice, his tired eyes, the gentle way he picked up her fallen pouches, and the truth in his story, she opened her eyes again. "I am sure," she said softly. Her mother nodded, accepting her daughter's decision. "Then go to him again. Speak your intention clearly. If he agrees, we will do the rest." That night, as the stars rose over the quiet land, Naira felt her heart beating with both fear and hope. She did not know what Luke would say. She did not know what the fort would do. But she knew one thing. She could not stand by while an innocent man suffered. She had to help him no matter the cost. Naira walked back toward the fort the next evening with a heart that beat harder than it ever had before. The sky was turning orange, the sun lowering behind the hills, and long shadows stretched over the dusty ground. She held her shawl tight around her shoulders, though the air was warm. It was not the cold she feared, it was the weight of what she planned to do. She thought again of her mother's words from earlier that day. The old tradition was rarely used, only in times of true injustice. Only when a woman believed in a man so deeply that she would tie her life to his in order to protect him. Naira had never imagined she would face such a choice, but Luke's eyes, his calm voice, and the quiet way he carried his pain, those things stayed with her every moment since. She first saw him in the cage as she neared the fort. 2 guards recognized her and exchanged looks. One of them stepped forward. "You again," he said. "It's almost night. Visitors shouldn't be here now." "I need to speak with the prisoner," Naira said gently but firmly. The guard frowned. "We allowed you before." That was enough. Naira did not step back. "I will only speak for a few minutes." The guard hesitated. The older officer from yesterday walked up, rubbing his tired eyes. He looked at her with a mix of confusion and curiosity. "Let her through," he said finally. "But don't take too long." Naira nodded respectfully and walked past them. Her heart thumped louder with each step toward the holding cage. Luke was standing when she reached him. He had been expecting the guards, not her. When he saw Naira, surprise softened his expression. "You came back," he said quietly. Naira stepped close enough to speak softly, but not close enough to alarm the guards. Luke moved nearer to the bars, his eyes searching her face as if trying to understand why she had risked returning at this late hour. "I wanted to speak with you alone," she said. Luke tilted his head. Slightly. "Is something wrong?" She took a slow, careful breath. Her hands trembled slightly, but she hid them behind her shawl. "I learned something today," she said. "Something important." Luke watched her closely. "What is it?" Naira looked down for a moment, gathering strength. When she lifted her head again, her voice was steady. "My tribe has an old tradition. A woman can protect a man who is treated wrongly. If she asks for marriage, the fort must release him into her tribe's care." Luke stared at her, stunned. He did not speak. His chest rose and fell slowly as he tried to understand if he heard correctly. Naira continued, her voice soft but full of courage. "If I ask for this, the officers cannot refuse. They must remove your chains. You would be free." Luke swallowed hard. His eyes dropped to the ground for a moment, then back to her. Why? Why are you telling me this? Because you are innocent, she said, and because no one else will stand for you. For a long moment, Luke said nothing. His face showed shock, confusion, and disbelief all at once. He moved closer to the wooden bars, lowering his voice. You barely know me, he said. You've spoken to me twice. Why would you risk something so big for me? Naira felt her throat tighten. She had asked herself the same question all day. The answer was not easy to explain in words. Because my heart tells me you are not the man they say you are, she said. Because I saw the truth in your eyes. Because if I walk away now, I will never forgive myself. Luke shook his head in disbelief. He looked at her with an expression she had not seen on him before, an expression full of emotion, like someone who had carried years of loneliness, suddenly seeing a light he never expected. Naira, he whispered, unable to finish his sentence. She stepped closer to the bars now, close enough that she could see every bruise on his face. Her voice softened. I am not asking you to love me. I am not asking you to accept anything more than safety. This marriage, it would be to protect you, nothing else. Luke's hands tightened around the bars. He looked down and then back up, struggling with the weight of her words. If you choose this, he said slowly, your life will change. Your people will expect us to stay together. They will expect me to stand beside you. It won't be something you can undo easily, Naira nodded. I know. You deserve someone better than a man who sits in a cage, Luke murmured. She lifted her chin. I deserve the truth, and I see truth in you. The silence between them grew deep, yet comfortable. The wind rustled softly over the fort walls. The guards had grown bored and were barely paying attention now. The moment felt suspended in time, strange, fragile, powerful, finally. Naira spoke the words she had been carrying in her heart all day. Her voice barely rose above a whisper. Please marry me. Luke's breath caught. His eyes widened, and for a moment he looked as if he had forgotten how to speak. Naira felt her own heartbeat pounding in her ears, but she kept her gaze steady. I want to save your life, she continued. This is the only way. Luke closed his eyes for a brief moment, as if trying to steady himself. When he opened them again, they shimmered with something deep, something wounded yet hopeful. I never thought anyone would fight for me, he said quietly. Not like this. Naira felt her chest tighten. You deserve someone to stand for you. Luke looked at her for a long time, his eyes searching her face with a seriousness that made the world around them disappear. It seemed like he was seeing her in a new way, like he understood the weight of her courage, the risks she was taking, and the kindness behind it. Are you sure? He asked softly. If you do this, people may talk. Some may question your choice. You will be tied to a man who has nothing. Naira nodded slowly. I am sure. I do not fear being judged. And you are not nothing. Luke breathed in deeply, as if her words pushed the air back into his lungs. His voice shook slightly when he finally spoke. I don't know how to repay something like this, he said. You don't need to repay anything, Naira answered gently. You only need to trust me. Luke placed his hand against the wooden bar, not reaching for her, but resting it close enough that she could feel the warmth of his presence. Naira lifted her hand and placed it near his on the other side of the bar. Their fingers separated by just a thin piece of wood. For the first time since she met him, she saw a spark in his eyes, not fear, not pain, but hope. I will agree, Luke said softly. If this is truly what you want. Naira felt relief wash over her like cool water. She let out a quiet breath she did not realize she had been holding. I will go to the fort commander at sunrise, she said. I will speak the tradition in front of him. They will have to release you. Luke nodded slowly, still overwhelmed. Thank you, he whispered. You are braver than anyone I've ever met. Naira's cheeks warmed, but she held his gaze. And you are kinder than anyone believes. One of the guards called out that visiting hours were over. Naira stepped back reluctantly. I will return at sunrise, she said. Be ready. Luke watched her walk away, the fading light casting a golden outline around her form. He pressed his forehead gently against the wooden bar, his mind racing. For the first time in days, He felt something he thought he had lost forever. Hope. As Naira walked into the darkening land, her heart felt both heavy and light. Heavy because the choice she made carried great responsibility. Light because she knew she had done the right thing. Tomorrow would change everything. For her, for him. For both of their lives, and neither of them knew just how far that choice would carry them. The morning sun rose slowly over the open plains, spreading warm light across the land. The air was cool for now, but everyone knew it would turn hot soon. Birds called softly from the nearby trees, and a faint breeze carried the smell of dry grass. Naira walked toward the fort with steady steps, though her heart beat faster with every foot she took. Today was the day she would speak her decision aloud. Today was the day she would change a man's fate completely. She wore a simple dress, tied with a woven belt her mother had made. Her dark hair was braided neatly down her back. She carried no weapons, no gifts, nothing except her courage. Behind her, 2 elders from her tribe followed at a respectful distance. They knew the tradition she was about to invoke, and they came to support her in case the fort officers resisted. When they reached the fort gate, a guard noticed them right away. He lifted his hand to stop them, but Naira did not waver. She stood tall and looked him in the eye with calm strength. "I must speak with the commander," she said. The guard looked confused. "At this hour? For what?" "To follow a tradition recognized by our treaty," Naira replied. Her tone was steady. She knew exactly what she was doing. The guard frowned, but did not argue. He stepped aside and sent another soldier to fetch the commander. Within minutes, the officer appeared, wearing a tired expression and adjusting the belt on his uniform. "You're here early," the commander said. "Is there trouble?" "No," Naira answered. "But I need to speak with you before the day begins." The 2 elders stepped forward. One of them, a calm old man with silver hair, spoke in a respectful but firm voice. "Our tribe has a tradition protected by the agreements we share. This woman will speak it today." The commander's eyebrows rose. "What tradition?" Naira took a breath, and she said the words clearly, without fear. "I ask for marriage with the prisoner you hold in the cage. I claim his release into my tribe's protection under our law." The yard fell silent. Every guard in sight turned their heads sharply toward her. Some looked shocked, some confused. One nearly dropped the rifle he was holding. The commander blinked several times as if he thought he misheard. "You want to what?" "I ask for marriage," Naira repeated, her voice unwavering. "According to the treaty between your fort and our people, you must release him. This is our right." The commander rubbed his forehead, clearly overwhelmed. "This is highly unusual." "It does not matter if it is unusual," the elder said gently. "It is our tradition. And your agreements honor it." The commander looked around helplessly, as if hoping someone else would object, but no one did. The treaty was known by all. It was written in both languages and signed years ago to keep peace. He had no choice. With a long sigh, he nodded. "Very well, bring the prisoner." 2 soldiers hurried to the holding cage. Luke stood inside, having already guessed what was happening. He had seen Naira arrive with the elders. His heart pounded in his chest. When the soldiers opened the cage and unlocked the small chain at his boots, Luke stepped out slowly, blinking against the sunlight. His wrists hurt from the hours spent inside, but he breathed deeper now, as if the air tasted different. Naira watched him approach, her hands trembling lightly under her shawl. Luke's eyes met hers, and she felt warmth rush through her chest. He looked overwhelmed, humbled, grateful, everything at once. The commander crossed his arms and looked from Luke to Naira. "Are you certain about this?" he asked Naira one last time. "I am," she answered. The commander then looked at Luke. "And you? Do you accept this arrangement?" Luke nodded slowly, but firmly. "Yes, I do." His voice was steady, filled with sincerity. He didn't look like a man forced into anything. He looked like someone finally seeing hope after long darkness. Then, according to the treaty, the commander said, "The prisoner is released into the care of this woman and her tribe. Remove his restraints." The guards moved closer and unlocked the last metal clasp from Luke's wrist. The sound of the metal falling away echoed softly in the quiet yard. Luke stared at his freed hands for a long moment, feeling the weight lift from more than just his skin. He felt something inside him loosen too, something he had carried for months: fear, exhaustion, hopelessness. When he looked up, Naira was already walking toward him. She stopped just a step away from him, her eyes warm and steady. "You are free now," she said softly. Luke swallowed hard. "Because of you." Naira shook her head. "Because you deserved freedom." Luke felt emotion rise in his throat. He had been alone for so long that he barely remembered what kindness felt like. Now he stood in the open. Sky, unchained, because one woman believed in him more than anyone else ever had. The commander cleared his throat and gestured toward the gate. "You may take him. But remember this: if he causes trouble, we will expect answers from your tribe." Naira turned to him. "He will cause no trouble. He is a good man." Luke felt warmth spread through him at her words. The elders nodded, and together they led Luke out of the fort. As they walked through the gate, townspeople and soldiers watched with wide eyes. Some whispered. Some looked confused. But no one dared to interfere. When they were far enough from the fort, Naira slowed her steps to walk beside Luke. The trail stretched long in front of them, open and quiet. The sky was clear, and the breeze carried the smell of sagebrush. Luke finally found his voice. "I don't know how to begin thanking you." "You don't need to thank me," Naira replied softly. "I did what I believed was right." "But you risked so much," Luke said. "Your name, your future, everything." Naira looked at him with calm eyes. "I did not risk anything. I made a choice. I do not regret it." Luke walked in silence for a few moments, taking in her words. He looked toward the land ahead, then back at her. "I don't know what the future will bring," he said gently. "I will stand beside you. I will work, help, protect whatever I must do to honor your choice." Naira felt a small smile grow on her lips. "We will learn together." When they reached the tribe's camp, people gathered to see the man Naira had brought. There was curiosity in their eyes, but no anger. Some nodded respectfully. Others stepped forward and introduced themselves. They trusted Naira's heart and judgment, and if she believed the cowboy deserved a home, they would accept him. Naira's mother came out from their lodge and looked at Luke with calm, thoughtful eyes. After a moment, she smiled softly. "Welcome," she said to him. "You will be safe here." Luke bowed his head. "Thank you." That evening, a small, welcoming meal was prepared. Luke sat beside Naira for the first time without bars between them. He listened to the soft voices of her people, watched children, laughed nearby, and felt something he had not felt in years: peace. When the meal ended and the stars began to shine, Luke and Naira walked a short distance away from the camp, stopping near the edge of the trees. The night air was cool, and the stars covered the sky like silver dust. Luke turned to her with a quiet, serious expression. "Naira, you've saved my life." Naira shook her head gently. "I only did what your heart deserved." Luke looked at her for a long moment, his eyes full of gratitude and something deeper, something growing slowly between them. He didn't touch her, didn't rush closer, but his voice held honesty. "I don't know what lies ahead," he said, "but I want to face it with honor and with you." Naira felt warmth bloom inside her chest. "Then we will walk this path together." They stood in silence for a moment, watching the sky, letting the new shape of their lives settle around them. The wind rustled softly through the trees. Somewhere in the distance, an owl called. Luke breathed deeply, feeling the weight of his past slipping away. Naira breathed softly, knowing she had done something brave and right. Two lives that had once walked apart now, walked the same path, brought together by courage, trust, and a choice that changed everything.